All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. We are live. Thank you so much for showing up to the second season. This is season 2, episode 1 for the Provoke Coach podcast. And as we were just talking, I always love to try to record, these messages and these conversations that I have, even before going live. And I have with me a very special guest today, and it's exciting to talk shop with somebody that has the same interest and the same desire as I do. But more importantly, we want to be able to get our tentacles out there and help the masses. Okay. So definitely, if you're here, if you're listening live, we want to hear from you. Comment, post, share, like, do whatever you got to do. Scream at the top of the lungs. We want everybody to hear this message. So my special guest today, welcome, Veronica. Natzia. Thank you so much for coming on our podcast.
Thank you for sharing the space with me. I'm honored. I told you this before, but I'm going to share it with the world. You're a badass. I love what you do. I love, the genuine and authentic person that you are. And you inspire me. And again, it's an honor for me to be here. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And look, I know you. I've been following you for a while. You probably have people that are tuning in and listening now, right, as we speak, or they're going to be listening later, down the road, maybe even for years to come. I want you to explain to everybody who you are, I guess, right now in the present day. Let's talk about the present right now. What do you do? Where do we'll get into where you come from and the whole story behind everything a little bit later, but who is Veronica right now?
I'm Veronica Natzia. I'm a 43-year-old proud woman. I'm a mother of 2 legends. I hold the COO position at Hudson International, which is the largest freight forwarding company in North America. And I run my own 7-figure coaching business called She Who Brings Victory. And by the way, a lot of people would say, why She Who Brings Victory? Because if you Google Veronica, name meaning, it means She Who Brings Victory.
Nice.
My core is really Fortune 500 executive coaching.
Yeah.
I grew, I developed, I evolved, and what I do right now is mostly coach people on confidence and coach them how to build a 7-figure business in 12 weeks. No bullshit. I built my own my own 7-figure coaching business in 10 months. 10
Nice.
months.
Nice.
So you know what? I want to share it with the world, and I want to see others succeed. And I really want to see others be confident in who they are, be their authentic, badass self, and just, fulfill their potential to the fullest. So that's who I am. That's what I do.
That's awesome. Now, do you specifically work then with business owners? Is this more business coaching, like, sales coaching, doing the whole design, or is this individual coaching as well, like one-on-one non-business owners?
So what I do, I have 3 programs that I offer and that I work. So one of them is the one-on-one coaching, the individual coaching, which does not necessarily have to be around business, more
Okay.
self-development and confidence and high performance.
Yeah.
Business coaching is solely high performance because listen, this is what the C-level wants. This is what we're going to give them. This is what we know how to
Right.
do best. I run my group coaching, my 12-week group coaching, which is called Rise with Legends,
Nice.
which is all about how to build your business in 12 weeks. Interestingly enough, most of my students are coaches.
Nice. Nice.
It was not when I built this program, it was not aimed only at coaches. It was built for any entrepreneur starting any business, service-based, product-based. It's amazing to see who we attract and how we attract and to grow with others, right? So yes,
Yeah.
most of my students are coaches as well, which is fascinating to me. I mean, it's near and dear to my heart. So yeah, that's what I do.
That's awesome. And I guess so. Where do you kind of see stuff like this in the future for you? I mean, right now you're, carrying on an executive position as a OO, you said, right? at a major company. How long have you been with them? Has that been a length of time that you've been with that company?
Since 2010.
Since 2010. Okay, so I mean, that's a long time to hold a
Mhm.
position in that level. I mean, do you see a mix of this taking place with coaching in the future as well? Or are you just primarily focused on your business outside of that? Or, I mean, tell me how that's working.
Look, I want to break some myths like I always do, controversial. So,
Yeah,
one of the things that really bothers me so much, and it really triggers me, to be honest, is when I hear people, oh, I hate the corporate world. Oh,
yeah,
it's a 9 to 5 environment. Listen, any job that you have, or even if you own a business, it's all going to come down to how you treat it. So,
yeah,
if you treat your job as a 9 to 5 job, it will be a 9 to 5 job. Look,
absolutely.
when I was super young, when I was 16 and 17, my dream was really to be one of those badass women working in Manhattan, running,
Right,
running the whole world and having like those assistants like in the movies behind me, grabbing my bag and the phones. And guess what? By the time I was 21, my dream came true.
right.
So I
It's like
entered
that movie, right? What is it? Somebody heels and Prada. The
yeah,
devil wears
the devil's
heels, or
the devil the devil wears Prada.
right? Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so and it's funny that you say that. And I'm going to kind of interrupt you for a second
Please,
because I had another gentleman on the podcast, and this is months back, but he also had this notion that, I mean, he was the COO actually of a company, right? Which is, those people that don't know, I mean, you're not the CEO, but you're really the commanding officer, right? So you're in there you're the integrator, you're the person that's getting things done instead of just the visionary. Okay, so I want you to talk about that for a second. You've held this position for quite some time. You don't look at it as a 9 to 5. I'm assuming you look at it like you own the business. Okay, then
100%, 100%.
talk about that for a second because I think people need to hear that. It's not always about this fluffery or this puffery around like entrepreneurship. Okay, like everybody wants to use this word entrepreneur. Like I didn't even hear this word until like 5 6 years ago, not on
Mhm.
a regular basis anyways. Now everybody, I mean, they wear shirts that say that, hey, I'm an entrepreneur, but really they're not. Talk to
You
us a
know,
little bit about that.
you're freaking amazing. Look, let's go back a little bit. So, corporate, okay, we entered the corporate world. I entered the corporate world at a very young age, and I thrived in the corporate world, right? I entered it with the goal that I want to be the top, I want to be that C level. But you have to understand that you need to dirty your hands. You can't
Mhm.
become an
Yeah,
entrepreneur or a C level without starting from the bottom. And the beautiful part is that when you start from the bottom, you know everything. You know how to do everything. So when
yeah,
you're a CEO, when you're a COO, great. Tomorrow, 50 people from your organization decide to quit. Bye bye. I can do everything by myself. I'm not dependent on anyone. And
right.
that's the beauty of becoming, an entrepreneur as well.
Yeah,
One of the most important, most valuable lessons that I've learned was, listen, to become a successful entrepreneur, you first must do everything you don't want to do
yeah,
to be able to do what you want to do.
right. Yeah,
And the reality is that to become an entrepreneur, it's so interesting because look, the CEO is the visionary, but who gets the job done? The COO.
yep,
Simple as that. When you start your entrepreneurial journey or want to become an entrepreneur, the first thing you need to learn, the first thing you need to learn is to think like a CEO.
yeah,
And a lot of people, that I work with, a lot of people that I hear sharing their stories, they don't understand really what it takes to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And really and truly, what is a CEO? It's not just a visionary. So,
Hmm.
you go to coach an executive or a business, okay, strategies and stuff, and like you just said before we went live, it's like, okay, let's throw the money and money and money, but money doesn't get the job done.
Yeah.
The reality it is that we as individuals, whether we are on a self-development journey, whether we're entrepreneurs, whether we in the corporate world, we are so conditioned to think, what is it that we need more? What is it that we need to add to become better?
Yeah.
But the reality is the power of a good CEO is to look at what is existent,
Hmm.
whether it's within us, whether it's what's already existent within the organization, and
Yeah.
enhance it.
Yeah.
That's the secret. You utilize what you have. You don't think about what you don't have. You take what you have and
Yeah.
you utilize, the crap out of the, I was gonna say the F out of it,
Right.
to
Yeah. It's okay.
really,
You can. You
really
can. I'll put
it's
explicit on
great.
the.
And you utilize and you enhance the
Yeah.
fuck out of it to bring it to that level, that really that performance level that you want. And the reality is
Let
the
me ask you a
reality,
question though. Let
yeah,
me ask you a question, and I'm gonna probably interrupt you 50 times
go
because
ahead. I love it.
this is a hot topic, right? But that's abundance mindset that you're talking about. In a in the business world, because you're taking what you already have. Because I agree with you 100%. Like people are always looking for, well, what do I gotta buy, or what do I have to invest in, or what do I have to do, right, to be able to get this? And then they're not really focused on, like you just said, enhancing what it is that they already have and making that so damn good, because people are incredible assets as well, as we know. And I mean, instead of looking for, well, who's better out there, and try to recruit them and spend all that time recruiting and developing and training and doing all that, what about the person that's sitting in front of you? Do you find, do you find that to be true?
100%. The way I look at it, right? The way I choose to look at it, I don't choose to look at it, as abundance, right?
Yeah.
To me, my perspective, we are born into this world abundant. We are born into this world entitled. What do we do?
Well, yeah, that's
It's up
true.
to
Hmm.
us, or up to, that's a whole different topic.
Yeah, yeah,
The way I see things, and this is what my whole entire coaching methodology is built around:
yeah.
strengths and weaknesses.
Hmm.
Simple as that. We, regardless of who we are or what we are, right? We are so trained and conditioned to focus on our weaknesses.
Yeah, that's
We're
true.
so trained and conditioned to what do we need to do to become better.
Hmm.
For an example, kids at school, right? Middle school, or oh, you need to get a B, sorry, an A in math. If you get a B, it's not good enough. But oh, he got an A plus in arts. Well, arts is not going to get you anywhere.
Right.
You see, it's like always focusing on your weaknesses and trying to always make those weaknesses better.
Yeah.
But once you understand and acknowledge what your strengths are and focus on these strengths and enhance them, weaknesses disappear. Because in reality,
Yeah.
from my perspective, there's no such thing as a weakness.
Yeah.
Every strength that you possess overcomes every single weakness you think you have.
Right.
And it's all about strengths and weaknesses, not necessarily abundance. I mean, this is my approach, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Well, it makes a lot of sense though, because you're right. Like, and especially when you're talking about getting wins on a regular basis. I know that, my clients and I, we talk about this a lot, with daily scoring, and I'm assuming, you do the same thing as well. And the point that I'm making is that they don't recognize their wins. And just like they don't recognize maybe what they're really good at and their strengths, and heighten those and get those to the maximum capacity, they spend all their effort on what they're not good at and really trying to get that to be subpar, really, in a lot of cases. Like they really pushing to bring it up to at least a C average, as an example. Wow, 100%. So I
You know
guess
what I want to, you know
where
what
do
I want to
you,
share? You want to know what I want to
yeah,
share with you if you'll allow me? Look, back in 2010 and 2011. I mean, I was, my son was at two at a time, and I was homeless. I was living with my son on the streets,
yeah,
and it was a fight to survive every single day.
mhm,
And at some point, you know, I said to myself, okay, it's either you go even more rock bottom, or you got to do something. But I
mhm,
was so focused on surviving, and I was so focused on what I need to have to be able to get out of that situation,
mhm,
that I lost, totally lost the ability to understand what I do have
mhm,
and what I can use. So we always focus on external.
yeah,
But the reality was when I paused and I said, okay, what do I have? What do I have? What do I possess? What do I own? What do I have that I can use to help me get out of that situation?
yeah,
And then I couldn't even afford a piece of pen, but I borrowed one from one of those convenience stores, and I sat down and I started writing all my strengths: speaking, people skills, every single strength that I possessed. And I
mhm,
realized and I realized how much I own and how much I have. And this exactly then, this is when I started. Again, my methodology is called double down. This is when I
yeah,
started doubling down on my strengths.
mhm,
So it's not external, it's a lot of time internal.
yeah,
We all need to go through things to get to things. And the reality is, we've gone through so much that we possess, we own so much.
right. Well, let's talk about that for a second. So let's talk about scenarios because obviously, and we'll get into, I guess some of the things that kind of provoked, you to move in the directions that you've moved. But let's talk about the doubling down for a second because I like that. First of all, I love the phrase doubling down. Sounds like you're in a poker tournament, right? And you're just like
Exactly. What do you
it, it,
exactly?
and you're just putting it all, putting it all down. But for those people that are listening right now, like, let's give an example, I guess, in a real world, post, COVID nonsense, a real world that a weird world that we live in, right now, with everything that's happened leading up to the point. I mean, what kind of, things can people double down on? What ideas do you have in that sense? If somebody's listening right now.
I have a ton. It all
Okay.
depends on which direction you want to go to. But I'll just give you an example.
Yeah.
And I always, you know what, I'm very open sharing my story. Like, everybody knows that. So
Yeah.
back then, I needed a job. Like, I needed a job. I live on the streets. Like, I needed a job. That's what but I I I didn't look presentable. I didn't have my resume. I had nothing. But what I did know, and my son was with me, right? So I knew what I was good at, right? Based on my previous successes. So I knew of this organization, and the owner actually of that particular organizations met me when I was thriving back then, and he was after me, like, to hire me, blah blah blah. And I was like, no, listen, I'm super happy. But you see, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
Then when I needed a job, I'm like, okay, you know what, it came to my mind. Took my son, went into the bus, and went into the office front desk. No soliciting, no nothing. I'm like, great. I walked into this beautiful receptionist, and I said to her, listen, my name is Veronica, and I have a meeting with so and so. And she looked at me like that. It's like, not in the schedule. I'm like, I have a meeting with him. I do. And my son is with me. She's like, guess what happened?
Hmm.
5 minutes later, she goes, okay, he will see you now. I had nothing.
Nice.
I had
Nice.
nothing.
Nice.
Okay. But I doubled down, like, on the fact that he knew that I was so good that he was after me for so many years, and I kept saying no. But now I knew, okay, this is my opportunity,
Yep.
right? I lied, totally lied, got it wrong, not a bad lie. God forbid that I did not harm anyone, right? But
Right. Yeah.
I doubled down on the people skills that I have. That I
Yep.
know what my energy is. I know what it is when I walk into. So that's one example. And
Yep.
so many of us with COVID, we look for other opportunities, other jobs. So many people lost their jobs,
Yep.
financial situations down the drain. You know, all I'm saying is when what you can double down on is really focus on your strengths. Now
Yeah.
I know a lot of times it sounds blah blah blah, but here is a tip. Take your time, reflect on your journey. Reflect on your journey, whether it's your personal relationship, career, parenthood, whatever it is. Start writing down what your strengths are, what you're good
Yeah.
at. Forget what you're not good at, what you're good at.
Yeah.
And use that to get you to that job interview, to get you to get you to talk to people. Maybe you're shy, maybe you're not. Oh, start using those strengths.
Well, because it's funny that you said that because I think that a lot of people and I'm sure that you experience this a lot, they wait for everything to be perfect. And they sit there like you're saying, like with the job, like what you could have done is you could have been like, I don't have a resume, I don't have this, I don't have that, let me just wait until this day, or let me just wait until I got all my shit together before going in there. Or you could have been like, son, sit here, I gotta get to work. You put your hair in a ponytail and you freaking, knock the door down, right? And kick it in. Like that's fantastic. Now, can I ask you a question?
Anything.
So when you're talking about doubling down, I guess we'll roll back the pages. Like, where did the coaching come from? Because I mean, here, you're COO of a company, so you're a high level executive in a company. You've been very, very successful for all these years. Where'd the coaching come from? Why did you feel the need to offer more to the world?
You're amazing. Going back to 2011.
Yeah.
So I there was one very specific moment that I was standing with my son in line at the local grocery store, and I had very few items in my cart. Went to the register to pay, and I did not have $20 bill to pay for the
Mm.
groceries in my cart. What I did is I held my son. We went outside, and I started crying. I was standing in front, I was crying. I remember my son back then. Imagine a 2-year-old boy. He looked at me and he was holding my hand so strong. And he said to me, Mama, are we going to be okay? And in that moment,
Mm.
I looked up in the sky, took a deep breath, and then looked into his eyes. And I said to him, you know what? No, we're not going to just be okay. We're going to be more than that. And in that moment, I promised myself and I swore to my son that we're going to get a lot better. But,
Mm.
but the minute that I get better, I will reach out to other single mothers and kids that cannot afford to be fed, or mothers that are struggling to feed their children. And I told them, I'm going to end child hunger.
Mm.
And I always knew that someday is going to come and I'm going to start fulfilling that mission. I didn't know how. I didn't even think about the how. I just knew that I was going to do it. And as time went by, I decided to become a Jay Shetty certified coach. And the thing that inspired me really is Jay's mission to transform 1 billion lives, because
Yeah.
it very much aligned with my mission to end child hunger in terms of the
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, what better way to do it than I've been coaching all my life and mentoring all
Yeah.
my life, but not in that direction, more Fortune 500, corporate. So I really wanted to take it to a different direction, to be able to work with people one-on-one, to be able to work with single mothers.
Nice.
And this is what I know for a fact is the driving force for me to keep on offering more and learning more so I can offer more and give more. So yeah.
So your cup is pretty full. So you're able to definitely dump that, not only into your own, family, of course, but into the families of others. And that gives you an opportunity to fuel that. That's fantastic. It really is. I mean, where do you see the future? I mean, I guess on a global scale, you're looking to really put a dent, in your mission is it's strong, but it's a big one, as where do you see the future of that?
Like this is where the corporate world, where the money is, comes to magic, right?
right?
The reality is that we are working like the company I'm working with, and look, another set of amazing news is next month I'm launching our brand a new private aviation line.
Hmm.
So
Nice.
I get to deal with a lot of people that are very powerful,
Yeah.
that you know have a real have that impact in a huge scale, right?
Hmm.
um and I share with them and say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do with you, but this is what I do
Nice.
aside. So how can you help me? I
Nice.
ask them, like, how can you help me? How can I work in collaboration with you to
Yeah.
help you, and then you can help me fulfill my mission? Because at the end of the day, the intention is one, it's impact. So
Yeah.
really and truly, when the intention is the same, when your intentions, sorry, when your intentions are aligned, it
Yeah.
makes things so much easier. And
Yes.
and like I say, a lot of times in life, it's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know. We
Yep.
talk a lot about choose who you surround yourself with. So, you know what?
Yep.
Luckily for me, with a lot of hard work and determination, I was able to really build a huge network of
Yep.
influencers, of impact makers, and that makes my mission easier. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, it really, you start talking about compound interest, right? Just like in the banks, and just like, the really the rule of thumb, where it compounds over time. You're just doing it through people and their influence. And with their influence grows more influence. That's such an awesome mission. Well, I guess we got to really kind of go back to the beginning then a little bit. I mean, how did you get to this point? So we know that your provoking moment, or one of your provoking moments was, obviously at the grocery store with your son, and really, in that, living on the streets. How did you get there? Because you had some success prior to that. What landed you on the streets, really?
Look, if I look back at my childhood, I had the most amazing childhood anyone can have. I had a
Yeah.
father who was not only a father to me, he was my mentor. And he passed away when I was 25.
Hmm.
And reality is that, again, when I tell you I had an amazing childhood on every single level, whether it's emotional, financial, I had it all. I got married at the age of 22 in New York, and then my ex-husband and I moved to Canada. And I was living a dream. I was living a dream. But the reality was that I was not living my dream. I was living my mother's dream, my siblings' dream. I was living my ex-husband's dream. And my relationship with my mom uh, is really what made me who I am today. And I'm so grateful for her. God bless her. But I had a very complicated relationship with her. And reason being, her expectations for me, were so different than from who I was.
Mm. Yeah.
And I was never, ever good enough for her. Never.
Mhm.
I was never pretty enough. I was never smart enough. Nothing that I did was ever good enough for her. And even when I was married and had my son, and nothing was ever good enough for her. But the reality is that nothing was ever good enough for nobody around me. And I was
Right.
fighting so hard to live up to their expectations that I lost myself and I was
Mm.
miserable. And the reality is that I said, enough is enough.
Mm.
And the price I paid was ending up on the street. But I have
Yeah.
to tell you that being on the streets and being afraid and fighting to survive was the most, sorry, it was the most beautiful experience I've ever had. You know why? Because I
Mm.
was free. I
Yeah.
was liberated. I was free. I didn't owe anybody anything. I did not have to prove anything to anybody. I
Mhm.
was free finally to be me.
Mm.
And the minute I got that freedom and I disconnected my relationship completely from my immediate family, totally, totally, totally. And it was a hard thing to do because look, my choice led me to end up on the street. And don't for a second think that I didn't, beat myself up and oh my God, what did I do? It's not just me, it's my son as well. I
Right.
beat myself, but you know what? I decided that the price that I paid for not being who I am versus the price that I'm going to pay for being who I am was much heftier. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm going to pay the price of being who I am, and that's the reality, Clinton. That's what led
Yeah.
me there. Um, but again,
Wow.
it's nothing. It's nothing, right? It's zero. It's a zero price tag to pay for having that emotional freedom to like, oh my God, like shit, I am free. I am who I am. And then you realize you come to realize how capable you are. And you
Yeah.
come to realize that if somebody expected you to I don't know, to be a sea level, you all of a sudden realize that you can build your own empire.
Right.
And you would have never done that had I would have never be able to do that hadn't I
Yeah.
gone through that, right? So
Yeah.
sorry, I talk too much, but this is from
No, that's
part
fine.
here.
And that's so interesting, the way that it laid out because somebody needs to hear this message. And I'm sure, because there's really two types of people out there that they either had a shitty upbringing and they had to fight and claw their way to being right themselves and really being successful and kicking ass, but that's always the story. It's not always like, yeah, actually my upbringing was awesome, in every way, right? It's not always like that. You had everything that people our age wanted, right? Like when you're 21, 22, 23 years old, like, you're supposed to, have graduated college and got the house and, got married and start having kids and the white picket fence. And that's what we all think about, right? In our age group of how we were brought up, like you got the perfect world. It doesn't always go the way that it went for you. You sacrificed a lot. You know, how was it different? I mean, is it the quirky you that I see in the reels that you weren't allowed to be? Was it, this passion? Like, what about, I guess, and you don't have to get too detailed if you don't want, but, what mask were you putting on for all those years that made you just say, fuck it and go out on your own?
Look, I was always very confident. Always,
Yeah.
I was. Reality is that I was born confident, and thanks to my father, who raised me with a lot of confidence and always made sure, that I really be the best that I can be, right?
Mhm.
And I was always very outspoken and outgoing. So what you see in the reels, that's the genuine me.
Yeah.
That's who I am. It's like, and I go out there and I do me, and I'm being so
Yeah.
controversial, and I'm like, and being judged, and like every time I'm being judged, I'm like, thank you. Because the fact that you judge me just means that you wish you had the balls to do what I do.
Yep,
And that's what I
exactly.
that's what I tell that's what I always say, when you're
Right,
being judged, that means you're doing something right. So keep on doing it, because
right.
people judge you because of their own insecurities.
Yeah.
Reality is, Clinton, that I was I had so much more to give to myself,
Mm,
but I was limited. I was limited. And I was limited again because of and I'm not blaming anybody, because it was just reality. I was limited in by the expectations that my mom had. I was limited by the expectations, that my environment had. And it's okay. It's okay because, you know, like you said, we were raised to to have this, what do you call it? Almost like by a script, right? We know what the script
right.
is going to look like. We know what the end of the movie is going to be like. And I had so much more to give to
Yeah.
myself first, that it was almost like this brick wall that you couldn't even break, that I
Hmm.
could never give myself what I wanted to give to myself if I was to stay in that environment.
Got it.
And I really had enough. You understand? Like, I almost went into depression. Almost.
Hmm.
Thank God, like, I'm really mentally strong. I changed. I started changing. It was not it was not me anymore.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck that shit. That's not happening. I'm sorry. And
Right.
it's just making an executive decision. Yes, I am going to pay the price, but which price is heftier? I'm not
Right.
going to lose myself. Sorry. And
Yeah.
and this is really the make it or break it.
Yeah. And that's, for high performers that I have, on this podcast, there's always a provoking moment that that
Always.
really that really just says, you know what, we're going to go in a different direction. I know I've had tons of them throughout my life. Sounds like you've had, quite a few. Like, what, I guess, from your perspective, and I guess, with your upbringing, and then, look, you being on the streets, because that's about as low as you can, possibly get, like not having a home, not having a place to live, you're struggling for food, that's down there. But you also have been to the peak as well. And now you're, at the top of the mountain. What advice do you have for people, along that pathway, right? To where you do have the peaks, but you do have those valleys as well. What kind of advice do you have? And I guess we'll start, let's do a twofold for business owners, and then for people that are not business owners.
Uh, let's look at it, like you say, in two perspectives. Let's look at it at the self-development perspective, right? Which is amazing because it ties to the business, or and
Yeah.
look, the advice I have for any person is ask yourself three questions. Three simple questions. What do you want? And what I mean by what do you want is, what do you want for your own self? What is your own selfish, yes, selfish desire? What do
Yeah.
you want for yourself? The second question is, why do you want it? And when I say why do you want it, I'm not talking about it from a coaching perspective where, what is our why? But really, why do you want it? Again, tie it selfishly to you.
Yeah.
Why do you want it? Like, why? Why? What are you gonna gain? Let me rephrase it a little. What are you gonna gain by achieving what you want?
Right.
Okay. And the third and most important question is, what are you willing to do for it?
Yeah.
We all want to be millionaires. We all want to be billionaires. We all want that silver bullet. What are you willing to do for it? What are
Yeah.
you willing to sacrifice for it? What are you willing to let go of? And more importantly, what are you willing to invest in
Yeah.
it? Your
Yeah.
time, your guts, your money. So, this is the best advice that I can give anyone,
Yeah.
because whether you self develop, whether you build a business, this is your foundation.
Yeah. Yeah. And they intertwine. I mean, you can just, it's It's interesting what you said as far as sacrifice, because I think a lot of people, they have a pretty good vision, and a lot of people are motivated, but that sacrifice part, that's always tough. And it's not only is it tough for business owners a lot of times to roll up their sleeves, but people are not willing to do the basic work sometimes in that personal development space to where they want to try to get better. And that sacrifice thing is huge. That's a powerful message. Wow. That's just, I guess in for the listeners out there, that, I mean, I guess what's next on your horizon, where can they find you? I'd love to talk to you for hours, but I know the numbers, in about 40 minutes, we're going to start losing people here. So where can they follow you? Where can they find you? I have a little tickler, to put on here for you. I mean, what do you have for these guys? Is this where we find you on social, and then that's your website, correct?
Yeah, on I changed Instagram account recently, so it's
Yeah.
at Veronica Natzia. My
Okay.
website is veronicanatzia.com, and of course, my podcast, Scaling the
Yes.
Impossible.
Yes. And I mean, on your podcast, let's talk about that for a second. For people that are listening, they love to, they want to follow you, but they also want to follow, your podcast and your mission. What is that all about? Is that just like what you're coaching on, those specific topics, or is it something different?
It is, you nailed it, because it's exactly what I'm coaching about.
Yeah.
My podcasts are super short, super to the point. A lot of people call them quick fixes. I call them quick actions.
Okay.
Super short, super quick. And the reality is that what I do is I give people actionable tools to
Nice.
overcome, challenges. Um, a lot of inspiration. I'm heavy on the inspiration. That's what I live for.
Yes.
Um, and really and truly, everything in theory is super nice. Everybody can tell you, oh, you need to do this or you need to overcome that. Great, phenomenal. Now tell me, how do I do it?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm all about. Stop thinking,
Exactly.
start doing. But here, I'm telling you how to do it. I'm giving you
Right.
the silver bullet. Now, take it.
Now they got to take action, right?
Yeah.
Wow. It's such an awesome story. I'm motivated. I'm pumped up. What a way to kick off season two. I'm going to have you hang around for a second, in the broadcast studio. We'll let everybody else off. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, man, if you like this episode, you know what to do. Share it, leave a review. Obviously, that helps us all out so we can get our tentacles out and help more people provoke positive change in their life. So you know what to do. Share it. Thank you so much for coming, Veronica. Such a pleasure. I can't wait to do this again. And I'm going to be following you on your podcast as well. So we'll talk soon.
Thank you.